My name is Leonard Hale, and if you had told me a week ago that my own son would drag me out of my house before lunch and dump me somewhere I had never even heard of, I would have laughed in your face. But yesterday, just after sunrise, he pulled into my driveway without calling, marched up my porch steps and said, "Dad, grab your coat. We need to talk." There was something in his voice I hadn't heard since he was a teenager. Impatience mixed with something colder. I barely had time to lock the front door before he steered me toward his car, refusing to tell me where we were going. He didn't look at me once during the drive. No birthday wishes, no small talk. Not even a distracted smile. I kept guessing the restaurant. Maybe something in Brookfield. Maybe the cafe by the lakeside. Maybe anywhere that didn't feel like a mistake. I wanted to believe this was his attempt at reconnecting. Instead, the car slowed in front of a long brick building with neatly trimmed hedges and a painted wooden sign that read, Cedar Ridge Haven, Long-Term Care and Wellness Center. I blinked at it, confused. "Damon, what is this? A fundraiser? A visit?" He didn't answer. He pressed the unlock button, stepped out, and opened my door with a tight jaw. "Come on, let's go inside." He didn't drag me. He guided me with a firm hand between my shoulder blades, the way someone herds a nervous dog. And before I could ask anything else, we were standing inside a lobby that smelled faintly of lemon polish and warm plastic. That's when he said it, not loudly, not angrily, just flat. "You're staying here, Dad. It's time." I stared at him. Staying here? For what? I walked 3 miles yesterday. I cook my meals. I run the neighborhood watch meetings. What are you talking about? He exhaled, annoyed that I dared to ask. "You are getting older. You forget things. You wander." "I do not wander," I snapped. Behind us, an elderly woman was arguing with a nurse over pudding flavors. The sound somehow made the moment feel even crueler. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you are watching from. It helps more than you know. Damon leaned in, voice low. "Look, Dad, Camille and I can't keep checking on you. We have our own lives. You need supervision." "Supervision?" My voice cracked. "For what? Because I forgot your anniversary once?" He didn't respond. He motioned toward the front desk. A receptionist slid a clipboard across the counter without even looking up. The gesture told me everything. They had been expecting me. My stomach twisted. "You planned this?" Damon shrugged, eyes drifting toward the hallway like he couldn't wait to leave. "They'll take care of you. You'll be fine." Then came the part that made my blood run cold. His wife Camille stepped out from a waiting area chair, sunglasses perched on her head, holding my wallet and phone like they were her property. "Oh, Leonard," she said too sweetly. "We found these on your kitchen counter. Don't worry. We handled your admission forms." "Handled?" I repeated. "You forged everything, didn't you?" She smiled. "It's easier that way." A staff member appeared at my side, tall, tired, wearing a badge that read L. Corman. "Mr. Hale, if you'll follow me, we'll get your belongings sorted." "My belongings?" I looked down. Camille had already slipped a folded set of institutional pajamas into my arms. Sky blue, thin, dehumanizing. Damon clapped his hands once as if finishing a chore. "All right, that's it. Be good, Dad." "Damon," my voice shook. "At least tell me why. Why now? Why like this?" He avoided my eyes. "Because it's easier. For everyone." He turned and walked out. Camille followed, tapping away on her phone. Neither of them looked back. The staff member led me through a hallway painted a cheerful yellow that somehow made everything feel worse. Doors lined the walls, some open, some closed, televisions murmuring behind them. My room was small. 2 narrow beds, 1 tiny window, 1 dresser, 1 man snoring softly in the second bed. "This is you," Corman said. "Dinner's at 5. The door clicked shut. For a long moment I just stood there, holding those awful pajamas, feeling the shock start to burn into anger. Damon thought he had put me away somewhere quiet, somewhere powerless. He had no idea who ran this place, and he had no idea what he had just set in motion. Because by sunrise the next morning I learned something that turned this whole nightmare inside out, something that made Damon's plan fall apart before it even began. Sleep did not come that first night. I lay on the stiff mattress in that cramped room, listening to my roommate snore through his nose like a clogged engine. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard Damon's voice again, because it's easier. Easier than checking on the man who raised him. Easier than honesty. Easier than love. I must have dozed off sometime after midnight because I woke to the crackle of the intercom and a soft chime echoing through the hallway. My room was washed in the dull gray of early morning. My back ached, my neck was stiff, and for a moment I forgot where I was. Then I saw the sky blue pajamas folded on the dresser. Reality hit like a brick. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, rubbing my eyes. The air felt different. Colder, heavier, carrying the faint scent of oatmeal drifting from the dining hall. There was a knock at the door. A woman in a burgundy uniform peeked inside. Her name tag read, Marla. Good morning, Mr. Hale. Breakfast in 20 minutes. The director asked to see you afterward. My heart stumbled over itself. The director. Why would he want to see me again so soon? I nodded, though I felt a tightness in my stomach. As Marla left, I washed my face in the tiny sink and changed into the pajamas they'd given me, hating every second. I caught my reflection in the scratched mirror. I looked older than I felt, but not helpless. Not like the man Damon wanted to pretend I'd become. When I walked into the dining hall, a dozen conversations were already buzzing. Chairs scraping, spoons clinking, people talking too loud because they had forgotten how to talk at normal volumes. A TV murmured in the background about some local weather update. I sat alone. A tray appeared in front of me. Oatmeal, toast, a banana. This place isn't so bad once you get used to it, an elderly man said from a table nearby. He wore a faded baseball cap and pushed around his eggs like they offended him. Name's Harris. Leonard, I said quietly. First day? He asked. Something like that. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Don't trust everyone here. A few folks are decent. Most are just clocking hours. I swallowed. Thanks for the warning. But before he could say more, a staff member tapped my shoulder. Mr. Hale, Director Ruiz is ready for you. A ripple of nerves tightened my spine. I followed her through a corridor I hadn't noticed before. This one quieter, carpeted. The paint less chipped. The air felt cleaner. The lights softer. The, administrative wing. When she opened the office door, Victor Ruiz stood from behind his desk. Leonard, he said, and his expression was somewhere between disbelief and recognition. I wasn't sure I believed the report until I saw your name myself. I offered a weak smile. It's been a long time, Victor. He motioned for me to sit. I owe my whole career to the scholarship you fought for back in college. You know that, right? I remember, I said softly. I'm glad it helped. He sat back, folding his hands. Tell me what happened. Your son said you voluntarily checked in. I let out a breath that shook far more than I wanted it to. He signed me in without my consent, took my phone and wallet, lied about my health. I didn't even know where we were going until we pulled up outside. Victor's jaw flexed. Do you have any legal documents on you? Medical reports, power of attorney, anything your son could have used? No, I whispered, because there isn't anything wrong with me. He made it up. Victor exhaled slowly, tapping a pen against his desk. I'll be honest. If he forged documents, he committed a crime. But officially, you're now listed as needing long-term supervision. I can't just discharge you on your word alone. Not without reviewing everything. A sick feeling coiled in my stomach. I wasn't free. Not yet. But, he continued, leaning forward, you're not alone in this. And you're not powerless. His tone shifted. Calm, deliberate, like he had already been thinking through the implications. I'm going to investigate the paperwork your son submitted. If anything is inaccurate, falsified, or suspicious, I'll find it. But I need you to stay quiet. Don't confront staff. Don't confront your son. Don't let on that someone here is helping you. Why? I asked. Because if he did this once, Victor said, he may try something worse if he thinks you're becoming a problem. Cold washed through me. He slid a small card across the desk. This is my direct line. Memorize it. I'll get you your phone back somehow, but until then, trust me. I nodded, gripping the card. Thank you, Victor, truly. He stood and placed a firm hand on my shoulder. You helped me when you didn't have to. Now it's my turn. As I left the office, something in the hallway felt different, charged, like I had stepped into a current I didn't yet understand. But by the time I reached the corner, I caught sight of something that froze me in place. Damon, in the lobby, whispering urgently to the receptionist, holding a stack of documents I had never seen before. He wasn't done with me, he was escalating. I froze just outside the administrative wing, half hidden behind a doorway as Damon leaned over the receptionist's counter. He wasn't supposed to be here. Camille had made a whole show yesterday about leaving everything in the staff's capable hands. So what was he doing back less than 24 hours later? He clutched a stack of papers, thick, official-looking, bound with a black clip. The receptionist whispered something I couldn't hear, and he gave a strained smile, the kind he used when he needed someone to agree with him but didn't think they would. I stepped back before he could turn around. My heart hammered so loudly I swore the walls could hear it. What is he doing? Why is he back? I hurried down the hallway toward my room, my brain churning. Every instinct in me wanted to storm out there, demand answers, rip the paperwork out of his hands, but Victor's warning echoed in my head like a pulse. If he did this once, he may try something worse. So I kept walking. Back in my room, my roommate, Harris had called him the quiet one, sat in his bed staring at the muted TV. He didn't look at me when I slipped inside. I sat on my own bed, hands shaking, trying to breathe the panic out of my lungs. After a few minutes, a soft knock sounded. Marla peeked in. "Mr. Hale? Activities start in the common room. Crafts or light exercise, your choice." "Actually, could I go for a walk outside?" I asked, forcing a smile. Her expression tightened. "Outside time is supervised. You'll need approval." Approval. For a walk. My jaw clenched, but I nodded. "Maybe later." She left, and I sank back, pressing both palms against my forehead. Everything felt wrong. The walls seemed closer, the window smaller. I could almost hear Damon's voice from yesterday. "You're staying here. It's easier." I didn't know how long I sat there before Harris wandered in. He tossed his baseball cap onto his dresser and lowered himself into the chair between our beds with a grunt. "You look like someone told you lunch got canceled," he joked. I didn't laugh. "My son came back." Harris's eyebrows rose. "Already? They never come back this fast. Usually takes them a week or two to feel guilty enough." "He wasn't guilty," I whispered. "He had documents." Harris scratched his chin. "Let me guess. Financial stuff?" I looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" He sighed, lowering his voice. "Half the folks dumped here get stripped clean on day 2. I've seen kids walk in with power of attorney forms, property transfers, insurance claims. They take everything while the parents locked in. You think you're the first?" My stomach dropped. "He's going after my house, and probably your accounts." Harris gave a weary shrug. "Happens more than you'd think." I stood so fast the chair legs scraped. "I have to talk to Victor." "Careful," he warned. "You make too much noise and they'll mark you as agitated. Once that's on your file, they don't listen to anything you say." The word file felt like a trap snapping shut. Still, I couldn't sit still. I stepped into the hallway and made my way toward the administrative wing again. But halfway there, I heard voices around the corner. Damon's voice. "I just need this processed today," he was saying. "My father's mental state has been declining for months. We can't risk him changing his mind once he's settled." A woman answered. Maybe the receptionist. "The director has to approve a transfer of assets. We can't." "He already signed the preliminary evaluation," Damon lied smoothly. "Check the folder." My breath caught. Preliminary evaluation. Victor hadn't shown me that. I edged closer, just enough to peek around the corner. Damon stood with his sleeves rolled up, jaw tight, looking like a man about to close a business deal. A man who wasn't grieving, not worried, just impatient. "That folder proves he's unfit to manage legal decisions," Damon said. "So let's move quickly." Unfit. My own son was calling me unfit. The receptionist hesitated. "The director will still need to..." "I'll speak with him myself," Damon said, snatching the papers back. And then he turned, straight toward the hall where I was hiding. I ducked behind a linen cart, heart pounding in my throat. Damon walked past without seeing me, heading toward Victor's office. The moment he disappeared around the corner, I sprinted the opposite direction. I didn't know where I was going. My mind buzzed like a live wire. He wasn't just dumping me here to make his life easier. He wasn't just embarrassed. He wasn't overwhelmed. He was trying to erase me legally. I nearly collided with Marla near the medication room. She steadied me with a frown. "Mr. Hale, are you all right? You look pale." I forced myself to breathe. "Just dizzy. Can I sit outside for a moment?" She hesitated, then nodded. Fine. Stay within sight of the courtyard. Outside, the cold air hit my lungs like a wake-up slap. I sat on a wooden bench beneath a patch of weak sunlight, gripping the edges, until my fingers ached. My son was planning something far worse than abandonment. He was building a case, a false one, and if he convinced the wrong people, it wouldn't just be my house at risk. It would be everything I ever worked for. But before I could warn Victor, something happened in that courtyard. Something I never saw coming that proved Damon wasn't the only one hunting for control over my life. I sat on the courtyard bench, gripping the wooden slat so tightly my knuckles whitened. The winter air bit at my cheeks, and the faint hum of traffic beyond the brick walls reminded me how close freedom was, and how far. I kept replaying Damon's words in my mind, each one cutting deeper than the last. Unfit. Declining. Needs supervision. He was building a narrative, and if he succeeded, I'd be trapped here indefinitely. I had to tell Victor. I had to let him know what Damon was doing before my son cornered him with those forged papers. I stood, ready to march back inside despite Harris's warnings, when a shadow crossed between me and the sun. A tall man in a charcoal jacket stepped into the courtyard through the staff door. His badge hung from a lanyard around his neck. Facility coordinator. A. Trevor. He wasn't someone I had seen before, and he wasn't dressed like the nurses or maintenance workers. His posture was stiff, alert, like a man who observed before speaking. "Mr. Hale?" he asked. My heart thumped once hard. "Yes?" He nodded politely. "Mind if I sit?" I hesitated. Everything in me had become suspicious, but refusing could draw attention, so I gestured to the bench. He lowered himself slowly, elbows resting casually on his knees. "I noticed you had a visitor earlier," he said without looking at me. My breath caught. "You mean my son?" He gave a small hum of acknowledgement. He seemed determined. That was too neutral of a word. Damon had seemed predatory. I watched him carefully. "You've been watching?" "It's my job to make sure residents aren't manipulated," he said. "Financial exploitation is more common than people think." He glanced sideways at me. "I'm trained to spot it." A flicker of hope sparked in my chest. "Then you know something's wrong. You saw what he brought in." He straightened a little, adjusting his jacket. "I saw he had documents, yes. I didn't see the contents, but I also saw your reaction." He paused. "You looked frightened." "I am," I admitted. "He wants to take everything from me." Trevor clasped his hands, considering me. "Your son told staff yesterday that you were having memory episodes, disorientation, wandering." He looked at me carefully. "Are you experiencing anything like that?" "No," I said firmly. "Nothing of the sort. And your medical history?" I swallowed. "Clean. Besides mild joint stiffness, I manage everything on my own." He nodded, absorbing each detail. "The problem is, Mr. Hale, that once a family member provides documentation, we must treat it as credible until disproven." "And how long does that take?" I demanded. He looked away, jaw tightening. "Longer than it should. Especially when families come prepared." My stomach twisted. Damon was prepared, too prepared. Trevor's voice softened. "But I want you to understand something. You're not powerless." He leaned closer. "And you're not the only resident here with a complicated admission story." I looked at him sharply. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, lowering his voice, "that I've seen people forced in. People tricked. People who had no idea what was happening until it was too late." He turned fully to me. "I don't know your situation yet, but if you're telling the truth, you need someone inside the system who believes you." My pulse quickened. "And do you?" He sighed. "I believe you're scared. I believe you didn't walk in here willingly. And I believe your son's urgency today was unusual." I was about to ask him more when the courtyard door swung open again. A woman in a navy blazer stepped out, speaking briskly into a phone. She didn't notice us, but she paused near the corner of the building, her voice lowering. "Yes, the Hale case. The son is here now. He wants expedited signature verification." My blood chilled. Trevor heard it too. His head snapped toward her, eyes narrowing. Expedited signature verification. That meant Damon was pushing to finalize something immediately. The woman continued. "He says his father is deteriorating faster than expected. He's requesting we bypass the usual waiting period." My chest tightened. Deteriorating? I hadn't even been here 24 hours. Trevor gave me a warning look. "Stay quiet, don't draw attention," but it was too late. She hung up the phone, turned, and spotted us. Her eyes narrowed. "Mr. Trevor and Mr. Hale," she said smoothly. "I wasn't told the resident was scheduled for outdoor time." Trevor stood. "He has supervised clearance." "That's news to me," she replied coolly. "This is the Courtyard. It doesn't require a special—" "It does when the resident is under evaluation," she cut in, gaze sliding toward me like a scalpel. Trevor stiffened. "Under evaluation." My throat tightened. "Come with me, Mr. Hale," she said. "The director wants to see you." Trevor stepped in front of me, voice firm. "I'll escort him." She hesitated, displeased, then relented with a clipped nod. As we walked back toward the building, Trevor leaned, in just enough for me to hear. "Be careful what you say in there. If they're pushing this fast, someone wants you discredited. And if they succeed," I whispered. He looked straight ahead. "Then getting out becomes nearly impossible." My hands trembled. Damon wasn't just taking my property. He was taking my identity. But nothing could have prepared me for what Victor showed me inside his office, because the signature on those documents wasn't mine. Victor's office door closed behind me with a soft click that somehow felt louder than the courtyard gate slamming shut. Trevor stood just inside, arms crossed, jaw tight. The woman in the navy blazer, apparently some kind of administrative supervisor, hovered in the corner like a shadow waiting to swallow the room. Victor motioned for me to sit. He wasn't the calm, nostalgic man from yesterday. His expression was carved from stone. "Leonard," he began quietly, "before I show you anything, I need you to stay calm. Do you understand?" My pulse quickened. "Show me what?" He didn't answer with words. Instead, he pulled a folder thicker than any I'd ever seen from his drawer and laid it gently on the desk, like it contained something fragile, something dangerous. "This," he said, "is what your son submitted this morning." Trevor's eyes flicked toward me, concern tightening his features. Victor opened the folder. The first page hit me like a punch to the stomach. "Application for transfer of ownership. 117 Maple Crest Lane. My house. The home Nora and I built nearly 3 decades ago. He's trying to take the property," I breathed. Victor didn't respond. He flipped to the next page. "Power of attorney. Full medical and financial authority." My name printed neatly across the top. My signature on the bottom, except it wasn't mine. My breath stopped. The L in Leonard curved the wrong way. The loop in the Hale was too tight. The spacing was off. It was me, but not me. A mimic. A forgery. Victor watched me carefully. "Recognize it? It's fake," I said immediately. "I never saw this. I never signed this. I know," Victor said. "I compared it to forms you signed at the college years ago. This isn't the same handwriting." The supervisor stepped forward. "Director, with respect, the son claims his father's handwriting has changed due to cognitive decline." I shot to my feet. "I don't have cognitive decline." "Sit," Victor ordered gently. "Please." I sat, fists trembling. Trevor spoke next. "We can't approve any legal transfer until the director completes a full competency assessment." The supervisor's eyes narrowed. "The son requested an accelerated review." "Accelerated or not," Victor said, voice firm, "I won't rubber stamp a forged document." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Victor turned the page again. This time, it wasn't paperwork. It was a photograph, a picture printed from someone's phone. Me, standing in my kitchen, staring blankly at an open fridge. It looked like I didn't know why I was there. Another picture, me at my mailbox, the lid hanging open, letters scattered at my feet as if I'd forgotten how to use it. Another, me sitting on the porch, head in my hands like I was lost or confused. Except I recognized the dates stamped on the bottom corner. They were all from the week after Nora died, a time when grief hit me like a tidal wave, when I barely remembered to eat, when the world felt like it had dissolved under my feet. Damon had turned my mourning into evidence. My throat tightened. He waited. He used those moments. Trevor swore under his breath. Victor leaned forward. "Leonard, listen to me carefully. Your son is trying to paint a picture that you're slipping, that you've been slipping. He's using your grief as proof of decline." The supervisor folded her arms. "Which is his right to submit. And we must consider everything." Victor shot her a look sharp enough to cut. We consider facts, not manipulation. My hands shook uncontrollably in my lap. Victor, what happens if he succeeds? Trevor answered instead. If the power of attorney stands, legally you won't be able to sign anything. You won't control your house, your bank accounts, or your own medical decisions. I felt the room tilt. And, Victor added quietly, you would not be allowed to discharge yourself from this facility. The words echoed inside me like a slow bell toll. He wants to trap me here, I whispered. Permanently. Victor placed a hand on the folder. I can slow this process, but I can't stop it alone. I need something, anything from you that proves the signature is false. I don't have my wallet, I said, or my ID or my phone. The supervisor smirked. Convenient. My fists clenched. His wife stole them. We need physical proof, Victor pressed. Old documents, letters, checks, anything with your verified signature. Do you have something at home he wouldn't have touched? Home. My house felt like another planet now. There's a lockbox, I said slowly, in the attic. Nora kept our original mortgage papers there. My signature is on all of them. Trevor exhaled. That would be enough. But how do we get it? I asked. Damon changed the locks. He took my keys. Victor looked at Trevor. Trevor looked back. Something silent passed between them. Then Trevor said, there might be one person on staff who can get inside that house. Legally. Quietly. But it's risky. My heart soared and dropped at the same time. Who? Trevor leaned closer, lowering his voice to a whisper. The night nurse. She's not just a nurse. She's a court-appointed advocate for vulnerable adults. And she doesn't like your son. But when the night nurse arrived at my door after lights out, she wasn't alone. And the person standing behind her made my blood run cold. Lights out at Cedar Ridge meant exactly what it sounded like. At 8:30, the overheads dimmed. The hallways went quiet, and doors clicked shut with an authority that reminded me uncomfortably of a prison block. Residents shuffled to bed. TVs were lowered. Even the air changed. Still heavy, expectant. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, waiting for a sign. Trevor's warning echoed in my mind. The night nurse isn't just a nurse, she's an advocate. And she doesn't like your son. If she could get to my house, if she could retrieve those papers, I might still stand a chance. The clock on the wall ticked slowly toward 9 when I finally heard it. A soft knock. 2 taps. Barely audible over my roommate's breathing. I sat up. Come in, I whispered. The door opened just a crack, spilling a thin ribbon of hallway light onto the floor. A woman stepped inside. She was in her mid-40s, hair tucked into a loose bun, deep lines around her eyes that suggested she'd seen far more suffering than most people could stomach. Her badge read, Night Care Supervisor, E. Banner. She held a clipboard, though I doubted she needed it. So, she said softly, you're Leonard. I nodded. And you're the one Trevor mentioned. That depends on what he told you, she replied. Before I could answer, a second figure stepped into the doorway behind her. I went cold. It was the supervisor from earlier. The woman in the navy blazer who'd been listening in on phone calls and tightening rules the moment she'd noticed me outside. Her name tag glinted in the dim light. Administrative Oversight, K. Dunley. Her expression was sharp, professional, and suspicious. Well, she said, arms crossed. Let's speak with Mr. Hale, Eleanor. Eleanor Banner's jaw tightened in irritation. She hadn't expected to be followed. She shut the door quietly behind them. My heart hammered against my ribs. Whatever this was, it wasn't the discreet late-night meeting I'd hoped for. Dunley stepped closer. Mr. Hale, I'm told you were feeling unsettled today. I stiffened. Unsettled was the exact label Victor warned could be used to discredit residents. I'm fine, I said evenly. Just adjusting. She smiled, but not kindly. Adjustment can be difficult, especially for individuals. Under evaluation, Eleanor gave her a look, a warning, or perhaps disapproval. Then she turned to me, gentler than the blazer-clad hawk beside her. Leonard, I need you to answer a question. Are you able to make your own decisions regarding your care? Yes, I said instantly. Dunley scribbled something on a notepad. And, Eleanor continued carefully, do you believe you were admitted here voluntarily? No. Dunley scribbled faster. Eleanor cast her a glare. We're asking questions, not scoring points, Karen. Dunley huffed. Procedure is procedure. Eleanor lowered her voice. You're intimidating him. Let me handle this. For the first time since meeting her, I saw tension crackle between them. Eleanor knelt beside my bed, lowering herself to eye level. Leonard, Trevor mentioned you have concerns about your admission. About your son. I hesitated, glancing at Dunley. She'll write down everything I say, I whispered. Yes, Eleanor replied, but she won't interpret it. I will. Her tone was steady, reassuring. I believed her. My son forged my signature, I said quietly. On financial documents, on medical evaluations, on a power of attorney form. He's trying to take my house. Dunley froze mid-scribble. Eleanor's face hardened, but not in disbelief, in fury. And you have proof? I will, I said. If someone can retrieve it. There's a lockbox in my attic with original documents. My real signature is there. Eleanor looked over her shoulder at Dunley. We need to report this. Immediately. But Dunley's expression shifted. Subtle but unmistakable. Fear? No. Calculation. Eleanor, she said slowly, you know what happens if we escalate without verification. If his son claims these are delusions? It could trigger a mandatory psychiatric evaluation. My blood ran cold. Eleanor stood abruptly. Absolutely not. I won't let that happen. Not when this is clearly exploitation. Dunley stepped closer, voice quieter. You know the administration's stance. Families come first unless we're certain. If we move too quickly, we'll lose jurisdiction. And his son is already trying to get state involvement. Eleanor's eyes flicked to me, wide, worried. State involvement? I repeated. What does that mean? It means, Dunley said briskly, your son petitioned for emergency guardianship this afternoon. If approved, he doesn't need your consent for anything. I felt the room tilt. Emergency guardianship. That was the fast-track version of erasing me from my own life. Eleanor turned to her, incredulous. You were going to tell me when, Karen? Tomorrow, Dunley replied. During the morning briefing. Eleanor stared at her as if she'd grown horns. You withheld that from me? It wasn't relevant. Yet. Yes, Eleanor said icily. It absolutely was. Silence fell, heavy, suffocating. Then Eleanor looked at me. Leonard, she said, we don't have days, we have hours. My hands trembled. What do I do? She stepped closer, lowering her voice to a whisper barely louder than breath. You're going to tell me exactly where that lockbox is in your attic. And tonight, I'm going to go get it. Before I could respond, footsteps approached down the hallway. Steady, purposeful. A flashlight beam flickered under the door. Someone else was coming. Eleanor's face drained of color. That's not my staff, she whispered. Lights out checks were done 10 minutes ago. Dunley grabbed the doorknob, panic slicing through her controlled facade. If that's who I think it is, we're already too late. Because the man who walked into my room a heartbeat later wasn't a nurse or an aide. It was my son. The door swung open with a force that made all three of us flinch. And there he was, Damon, my son, standing in the doorway of my care home room long after visiting hours, holding a manila envelope tucked under his arm like it was a weapon. His eyes swept the room, landing on me first, then on Eleanor Banner, then finally on Karen Dunley. A slow, practiced smile curved across his face. Well, he said quietly, looks like we're all having a little meeting without me. My throat went dry. What are you doing here? I could ask the same thing, he replied, strolling inside as though he owned the place. The smugness in his voice was unmistakable. It's after hours. Residents should be sleeping. Staff should be working, and my father, he glanced at me, shouldn't be having unauthorized visitors. Eleanor stepped closer to me, positioning herself between him and the bed. This meeting is within my jurisdiction, she said loudly. And you, Mr. Hale, are violating after-hours policy. Damon tilted his head, amused. Are you sure you want to throw around the word jurisdiction when I have these? He tapped the manila envelope. Eleanor stiffened. What's in the envelope? Everything the court needs, he said coldly. Emergency guardianship filings, affidavits, statements about my father's mental decline, confirmation from the psychological evaluation team. My stomach twisted. What evaluation? I was never evaluated. He flashed a mocking look. You don't remember? That's not surprising. Eleanor's rage simmered through her voice. You fabricated an evaluation? No, Damon said smoothly. I hired a licensed evaluator. She observed him yesterday morning. He was confused, disoriented, barely communicative. That's a lie, I snapped. He shrugged. Maybe for you. Not on paper. Karen Dunley cleared her throat. You can't file emergency guardianship without an on-site competency exam. Oh, but I can, Damon corrected. State law allows it when the family presents evidence of significant impairment, and the evaluator's report is signed, forged, just like everything else. I felt my chest tightening. But here's the good news, Damon said with a false brightness. I've scheduled the final review with the judge for tomorrow afternoon. Then everything becomes official. Eleanor glared. You're railroading him. You're trying to force this through before he can defend himself. Defend himself? Damon scoffed, stepping closer. He can't even manage his medication schedule. He leaves the stove on, he forgets conversations. He's not capable, Eleanor. My fists clenched. Those things happened after Nora died, you know that. And grief affects cognition, he shot back, which is exactly why I'm stepping in. The absolute confidence in his voice terrified me. He believed what he was doing was justified. He had convinced himself he was saving face, saving time, saving his own convenience, and I was the price. You're not here to help me, I said quietly. You're here to erase me. For the first time, Damon's expression flickered, but only briefly. A crack, a moment of something raw, then the mask slid back on. You should get some rest, Dad, he said. Tomorrow will be a big day. Eleanor stepped in front of him, blocking his path to my bed. You need to leave. Now. Damon raised an eyebrow. And if I don't? She didn't blink. Then I'll call security, Karen added. The facility has strict protocols. You're violating at least 3. Fine, he sighed dramatically, turning toward the door. I'll go. But before I do, he pulled a paper from the envelope and held it up. It was a checklist, a discharge block form. This, he said, ensures that Dad can't be released without my signature, even if he asks. Just a little precaution until the guardianship is finalized. Eleanor surged forward. Give me that. Damon smirked, stepped back and slipped it into the envelope. You'll see it in the system in the morning anyway. He turned to me one last time, and the look he gave me wasn't anger. It was triumph. See you tomorrow, Dad. He left without waiting for a response. The room was silent for several long seconds. Then Eleanor spun toward Karen. How long have you known about this? Karen swallowed. She looked shaken, genuinely shaken. He filed the emergency petition this morning, but the discharge block form, that's new. He's trying to make him unmovable, Eleanor said. Like he's already won. My voice barely came out. Is there anything we can do? Eleanor took a breath, gathering herself. We still have one option, but it's dangerous for everyone involved. What option? I asked. She lowered her voice until it was barely audible. We can't stop him legally, not yet, but we can stop him procedurally. Karen looked at her sharply. Eleanor, no, it's our only chance, Eleanor insisted. She turned to me. Leonard, if the facility doesn't recognize your emergency guardianship status tomorrow, the judge won't either. That means we need proof. Hard proof. Tonight. I felt my blood run cold. You mean the lockbox? She nodded slowly. Yes, the documents in your attic. If we get them before the hearing, we can destroy his entire case, Karen whispered urgently. But we can't leave the facility without authorization. If admin finds out, they won't, Eleanor snapped. We'll be back before morning. I swallowed hard. Who is going? Eleanor looked at me, then at Karen, then toward the dark hallway. Me, she said, and one other person. The door creaked open again. Trevor stepped inside, face pale but resolute. I'm the other, he said, and as they prepared to sneak out into the night to save my future, none of us realized we were already too late. Trevor closed the door behind him, and the 3 of them stood in a tense triangle at the foot of my bed. Eleanor Banner looking ready for war, Trevor tight-jawed with resolve, and Karen Dunley torn between fear and duty. I could feel something shifting in the air, something final. Leonard, Eleanor said, we're leaving now. If we wait until morning, your son will walk into that courtroom with full control. My stomach twisted. And if he wins, I disappear. Trevor nodded grimly. Legally, yes. You become a signature, not a person. Karen paced near the dresser, wringing her hands. I can stall the administrative system for maybe an hour if anyone checks security logs, but that's it. Eleanor grabbed her coat from under her arm. Dark, heavy, practical. That's all we need. She looked at me. Tell me exactly where the lockbox is. I took a steadying breath. Attic, west corner, behind the blue storage bins. Nora's handwriting is on the lid. Trevor memorized every word. Then something happened that made the hairs on my arms stand up. The hallway light outside my door flicked off. Not dimmed, cut out. Eleanor's eyes widened. That's not scheduled. Trevor moved first. Quiet steps toward the door, listening. He cracked it open 2 inches, then he swore under his breath. We're not alone. Eleanor crossed the room in seconds and peered through the gap. A silhouette stood at the far end of the hallway, motionless. Too tall to be a patient. Too still to be staff. The kind of silhouette that watched rather than passed through. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. Who is that? Trevor whispered. Not someone friendly. Karen backed toward my bed. We need to stay here until security. No, Eleanor said sharply. If that's who I think it is, security won't help. It'll make things worse. Trevor shut the door fully, locked it, and lowered his voice. He followed Damon. That chilled the room instantly. He? I asked. Trevor glanced at me. Your son isn't doing this alone. That man out there is a private agent. Some families hire them to monitor situations. Eleanor finished the sentence he didn't want to say. Private agents help push through guardianships, fast, quiet, unchallenged. My breath caught. My son hired someone to make sure this place signs off on my incompetence. Eleanor didn't answer. She didn't have to. She grabbed my wrist. Leonard, you're coming with us. Karen nearly choked. What? He can't leave. Residents can't just... Tonight he can, Eleanor snapped. Because if that man standing at the end of the hall gets to him first, there won't be a tomorrow. Trevor threw open the closet and pulled out a maintenance jacket. Put this on, he told me. I slipped it over my pajamas, hands trembling. The jacket swallowed me whole, but Trevor nodded with approval. From a distance, you'll pass for a night shift tech. Eleanor unlocked the window, pushed it open, and peered down into the darkness outside. The courtyard camera loops every 12 seconds. We drop during the blind spot. Karen looked horrified. This is insane. If administration finds out... They won't, Eleanor cut in. And if they do, they'll have to explain why they let a forged guardianship proceed. Trevor checked the hallway one last time. Nothing but darkness. Time's up, he whispered. We go now. The plan was simple and terrifying. Slip into the courtyard. Through the north gate. Trevor's car was parked in the staff lot. Drive to my house. Retrieve the lockbox. Return before dawn. A dozen things could go wrong. But one thing would definitely go wrong if we didn't try. Damon would take everything. We climbed out the window. Cold air slapped my face. Eleanor held my arm as we dropped quietly into the bushes below. Trevor followed after counting the camera's loop. Move, he hissed. We slipped through shadows along the stone wall, keeping low. My heart pounded with each step. We were halfway to the north gate when a voice stopped us cold. Going somewhere? The silhouette stepped into the moonlight. Not Damon, not staff, not a nurse. The private agent, close enough now to see the pale scar across his jaw, the earpiece glinting beneath his hair. Trevor shoved me behind him. We're taking a walk, he said evenly. The agent smiled. It was the kind of smile wolfish things give sheep. No, he said softly. You're not. He reached into his coat. Eleanor moved faster. She stepped between us, chin raised, voice like steel. He's under my care, she snapped. Touch him and I will open a legal investigation so wide you won't ever work again. The agent's smile faltered. Just a fraction, but enough. Trevor seized the opening. Run! He pushed me hard and we bolted. Eleanor gripping my arm as the three of us sprinted toward the staff lot. Alarms didn't sound. No lights flashed. The agent didn't shout after us, but he followed. Silently. Quickly. Trevor fumbling his keys. Lights blinking. Car doors yanked open. Get in! He shouted. We piled inside. The engine roared. Trevor reversed so fast gravel sprayed like shrapnel. The agent lunged forward, but headlights from an arriving maintenance truck washed over him, and he froze, stepping back into the shadows to avoid being seen. Trevor shot through the exit gate. Cedar Ridge shrank in the rearview mirror. My chest ached. My breath shook. Eleanor turned to me. "We get your signature documents, we get back before sunrise, and we end this." I stared out the window at the dark road. This wasn't escape. This was the first time in days I felt alive. Before I tell you how this night ends, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. The drive to my house felt both endless and impossibly fast. Streetlights flashed across the windshield as Trevor gripped the wheel, jaw clenched, eyes locked on the empty road ahead. Eleanor sat beside me, coaching me through every detail of the lockbox. Its size, the handwriting on the lid, the click it made when opened. By the time we pulled into my driveway, my heart was pounding so loudly I could barely hear the engine shut off. The house looked different in the darkness, emptier, almost abandoned, but it was still mine. Still the place Nora and I built with our hands, our hopes, our years. Trevor checked the street. "Clear, go." We moved fast. Eleanor used the emergency key card she carried, something she technically wasn't supposed to have, and the door clicked open. The house smelled faintly of dust and lavender, just as I remembered. "Attic," I said. Trevor pulled the ladder down. I climbed first. Slow, shaky, but determined. The attic was cold and cluttered, but I found the blue bins immediately. My hands burrowed past winter coats, holiday decorations, forgotten keepsakes. Then my fingers touched metal. The lockbox. I lifted it out, breath catching at the sight of Nora's handwriting. Curved, careful, unmistakably hers. When Trevor popped it open with a flathead screwdriver, the papers inside looked untouched. Mortgage documents, notarized contracts, old bank forms, all bearing my real signature. Eleanor exhaled shakily. "This is enough. This will destroy his case." We hurried back to the car, every shadow feeling like a threat. By the time we reached Cedar Ridge again, dawn was bleeding into the sky. Victor was waiting at the rear entrance. "We only have 15 minutes before the judge logs in for the emergency hearing," he said. "Give me the documents." Trevor handed him the stack. What happened next unfolded quickly, almost too quickly to process. Victor submitted the real signatures. He presented evidence of forgery. He provided testimony about Damon's pressure tactics. Eleanor and Trevor added their statements. Karen forwarded every suspicious file Damon had forced into the system. And just like that, the judge denied the guardianship, invalidated all forged documents, and froze Damon from making any further claims. By 8 a.m., my rights were fully restored. I sat in Victor's office, trembling with relief. Eleanor squeezed my hand. "You're safe now, Leonard." For the first time in days, I believed her. Before you go, subscribe to the channel and tell me where you're watching from. It helps more than you know.